Hello, you beautiful and brilliant toilet artist. It's me, the toilet artist supreme, Casey Katsaris. Wowzers begouzers. It sure seems like everything in the world has only gotten more zany and kooky and wacky since the last time I talked into a camera and posted it on YouTube. In many parts of the world, including parts of the US, the COVID-19 death toll continues to rise. We still don't have any real clear idea of exactly how long this whole lockdown is going to last. And through it all, the U.S. government keeps ripping bigger and juicier metaphorical farts directly into the open mouths of the American people. So, it's a bummer. It's a big drag. It's a sad thing. It can be very frustrating and difficult to handle being in a situation like this. And I think one of the toughest challenges we're all facing during this time is resisting the urge to believe in whatever seductive bullshit happens to tickle our particular feely buttons. Which leads me to the topic of this video: how I fell for propaganda. There is a brain-chokingly massive amount of information flying around online. Expert opinions, not so expert opinions, hard data, not so hard data, so soft it slips through your fingers like diarrhea data, hard data being misinterpreted until it becomes diarrhea, not so hard data being lovingly embraced like it's a big huggable pile of diarrhea, hard data being accurately interpreted but then somehow still ignored in favor of whatever stupid diarrhea was already believed. And more. It's a mess. Just like diarrhea. Even the doctors and scientists who actually do know the most about viruses and pandemics are changing their minds from day to day as new data becomes available. This kind of shifting, evolving analysis is unavoidable when scientists are dealing with a virus they have never before faced. But if one is not equipped or not willing to really absorb and truly comprehend the data and analysis that's being provided by these medical experts, they're of course going to lean towards feelings of mistrust and fear. One day they say do wear masks, and then the next day they say don't wear masks. Maybe these doctors aren't really doctors at all. I'm gonna eat a crystal! But the reality is, one day the experts made an assessment based on the available data and analysis, and then they collected more data and developed more analysis, and then on a later date, they revised their assessment based on the new data and analysis. It's really that simple. I know it's not as exciting as the idea of dastardly devil doctors conspiring with a shadow government to keep us all locked up in our homes day and night for weeks on end, awaiting a forced vaccination and microchips in our brains, and they're all just forcing us to live in fear in our houses, trapped like prisoners, except for whenever we want to go out for a walk for fun, or walk the dog, or drive to a store, or drive over to a friend's house and leave some baked goods on their doorstep and wave from a distance, or go to a drive-in movie theater, or really do anything as long as it works with the guidelines of social distancing, which are entirely reasonable and proven to save lives. But it's the truth. And it seems like it's harder than ever to get down to the real truth these days. It's easy to get confused. It's easy to swallow something false. And it's easy to listen to your emotions over your intellect. Which is not to say that I think it's always better to listen to your brain over your heart. In fact, I think there are many times in life where listening to your heart is going to lead you to far more fun and exciting results than listening to Dr. Brain Q Smarty Pants up there. But scientifically verifying the legitimacy and accuracy of data and analysis is sure as fuck not one of those times. Science time is brain time. It's kind of the whole fucking point. So, when you're trying to expand your scientific understanding of something, you gotta put Dr. Brain Q Smarty Pants in the driver's seat. If you don't, you might, like I did, spend a few days believing some dumb, not true things. Or, even worse, you might spend your entire fucking life believing some dumb, not true things. So, what happened exactly with me? Well, I watched a little documentary on YouTube titled Planet of the Humans. Maybe you've heard of it. Good title, and a fascinating subject, namely the commonly perceived viability of green technologies versus the reality of their viability. The film's conclusion is that all green tech is either intrinsically inefficient or just fossil fuels in disguise. It heaps the majority of its scorn on biomass burning, a technology that commonly involves harvesting and incinerating trees. It also lays pretty much all of the blame at the feet of capitalist corruption. It's not the first time I've watched or read criticism of technologies that are supposed to be environmentally friendly. The fact is, there are some limitations to all currently available forms of renewable energy tech, and those limitations do raise legitimate concerns about what is the most effective and efficient way to transfer human society over to a renewable energy grid. Another reality, in my view, is that the beliefs and structures and demands of capitalism often confuse the issue of green tech and hinder its progress. Also, I must admit, I've got a bit of a soft spot for Michael Moore, the producer of Planet of the Humans. His first documentary, Roger and Me, had a big impact on me growing up. And while it has since been revealed that there are a bunch of times when Michael Moore in his movies has misrepresented things to suit his narrative, I still think overall the film remains a staggering portrait of the cold capitalist exploitation that launched Flint, Michigan on its slow and steady decline into the neglected, broken down, poisoned water wasteland it is today. For example, I'll never forget the footage in that movie of Flint's rich white residents throwing a garden party and hiring local unemployed people of color to stand at their garden party and pretend to be statues. Man's inhumanity to man, am I right? And while Michael Moore has continued to sometimes misportray things in his documentaries, I think overall he's chosen worthwhile targets, made some good points, and generally has championed what I see to be just causes. I was also super impressed that Michael Moore predicted the election of Donald Trump, especially because I, like a fool, was completely convinced that Donald Trump could never be elected president. Having all those thoughts in my head about green tech and capitalism and Michael Moore predisposed me to believe everything Planet of the Humans had to say. I'm very embarrassed to say that I assumed pretty much all of the film's assertions were true. It sounded right. It made sense in the context of my pre-existing worldviews. It didn't really challenge any of my core beliefs. And there was a whole lot of disturbing footage of horrible things happening. It must be true! By the end of the movie, I believed that green tech was doomed. I believed that society as we know it was doomed. I felt sad. I felt angry. And I felt vindicated. And that was when I knew I was wading in very dangerous waters. Be wary of that intoxicating feeling, vindication. Sometimes we feel vindication because some kind of legitimate justice has been served. Someone has been exonerated from being wrongfully accused of something. Like if some guy at the grocery store snuck up behind you and took a big crap on your head, and then he went around town and he told everybody that he didn't take a crap on your head. And what actually happened was that you took a crap in your hands and put it on your head. And not only that, but after you crapped in your hands and put it on your head, you licked your fingers clean to cover up the evidence of your terrible crime. And not only that, but while you were licking your fingers clean, you kept whispering, "Oh, mother's milk." But then it turns out there was a security camera that caught everything, and everybody sees the video, and they see that that guy actually did crap on your head. And then the mayor hosts a parade for you, and everyone cheers for you and throws ticker tape and lets out balloons. And then at the end of the parade, they drag out the guy who crapped on your head in chains. And then everyone applauds for you again and cheers and chants your name as you take a crap on his head. You would feel vindicated. So would I. So would anybody. That's cool. That's the good kind of vindication. I mean, I don't generally subscribe to the whole eye for an eye thing, but when it comes to someone crapping on your head, it seems like that's okay, right? I don't know. But the point is, we don't only feel vindicated when a lie is revealed to be a lie. We also feel vindicated pretty much any time we encounter anything that confirms the crap we already believe. It's called confirmation bias, and it's super dangerous. So when I felt that sweet, tangy vindication rippling through my being, I stopped myself. I took a big step back. I postponed my little internal plan to post the movie on social media and champion its important message. And while I still at that time believed the movie to be at least mostly true, I also reached out to other people to get some outside perspectives. I contacted a handful of close friends, a couple scientists, a journalist, an economist, and a couple others. I told them I had just watched the film and I thought it was, quote, pretty amazing. It's so embarrassing. But I also asked them to watch the movie and let me know what they thought about it. And within a couple days, I started to hear back. The first person to get back to me was one of my scientist friends. Specifically, he's an expert in aeroengineering, climate science, and some other things. I don't know. He knows so many things. How am I supposed to keep track of all the things he knows? Anyway, that first scientist friend got back to me. And he said he thought the film actually made some good points early on about the limitations of green tech. But then in his eyes, it just kind of all went off the rails and went to crazy town. And in particular, he felt it just completely misrepresented biomass burning and the realities of that technology. And that in his understanding and the sources he linked me to, which I will share down below, basically, biomass burning, while still being figured out as a technology and still having some kinks in it, it has the potential to be a fully carbon neutral technology, and therefore could be a great piece of a plan to transition our planet over to renewable energy. My journalist friend, meanwhile, linked me to a piece in Rolling Stone where one of the film's supposed antagonists, he wrote an article all about how the movie got a bunch of stuff wrong. I'll also link to that below. Once I received that feedback and did some more research in the context of that feedback, I reached out to the other friends who I had contacted to let them know that despite my initial amazement, I had discovered that, in fact, the movie was mostly bullshit. I was very embarrassed. I felt stupid. I felt like a gullible dumbass. And you know why I felt like a gullible dumbass? Because I am a gullible dumbass. And so are you. And so is everybody. We're all a bunch of gullible dumbasses. We're humans. Gullible, angry, smelly, irrational, hungry, horny, sleepy, humans. Now, wait a second, Casey. At the start of this video, you called me a beautiful, brilliant toilet artist. And now you're saying I'm a gullible dumbass? Which is it? Am I brilliant or am I dumb? It's both, you butt-ugly Helen of Troy. It's one of the many paradoxes of human existence. We're all dumbasses. But we're also all smart enough to notice when we are being a dumbass. If we want to. Because really, it's not stupidity that keeps us from noticing when we're being a dumbass. It's pride. It's ego. It's fear. And the solution to such dumbassery isn't more smartness, whatever the fuck that even is. The solution is vulnerability. It's humility. It's honesty. It's courage. We all have the power to be courageous. We can all dare to question ourselves. We can all double and triple check our beliefs and assumptions against the perspectives and knowledge and analysis of other people, especially people with superior knowledge of the pertinent subject. Now, I am very privileged to have close personal friends who are scientists and doctors and journalists. You know how many scientists there are in America? About 6.9 million. And that is about 2.5% of the US population. So, if you're an American watching this, chances are you are not a scientist, you don't know any scientists, you probably haven't even ever seen a real-life scientist in the flesh. Part of the problem here is inequity of education. If everyone in America had the opportunity to receive an excellent education and have hands-on experience engaging with established experts, doing experiments, learning about science, I would guess that general mistrust of experts would not be the raging cultural plague that it is today. And I think the deeper problem is not ignorance, it's arrogance. Now, I know I can come off as arrogant sometimes, especially if I'm talking about people who I happen to think are terrible, stupid ass bastards. But please know that I do not excuse myself from the scrutiny that I apply to others, especially when I am speaking or writing in public. I double check my sources, I seek out counter arguments, I endeavor to check myself before I wreck myself. And yet, I have still wrecked myself many times. For example, way back in the early 2000s, I went onto my MySpace blog and I posted a link to the 9/11 Truther documentary, Loose Change, because I watched it and I thought it made sense. And then, pretty quickly, somebody came on and commented, "Hey, this documentary is a bunch of bullshit, and here's a link to an article that debunks all the bullshit in the documentary." And then you know what I did? I read the debunking, and I accepted that I'd made a mistake, and then I posted another MySpace blog explaining how I fucked up and encouraging people to look at the debunking source. So you can do that. You're allowed to do that when you get caught posting something stupid. And despite that and many other times I've wrecked myself, I'm happy to say that thanks to guidance from others and my own independent practice, I have gotten much better at observing myself and catching myself when I'm being a dumbass. Like this time with Planet of the Humans. I double-checked my assumptions, I sought out the opinions of expert sources, and I never made myself look like a silly dum-dum in public. Except for now, when I'm admitting that I was a dum-dum. But this is different! I strongly encourage you to do whatever you can, whatever works for you, to strengthen your muscles of self-observation, to look at yourself as clearly as possible, without any judgment, positive or negative, to see the ways that you are a gullible dumbass, and to work on getting better at checking yourself before you wreck yourself. Because if you don't check yourself before you wreck yourself, checking yourself is only going to get harder. Chances are you'll get defensive and angry and you'll seek out faulty evidence to justify you keeping your beliefs the same. And you'll project your own flawed logic onto other people. And you'll make memes where you take a still from a movie made by people who hate everything you believe and then plaster said beliefs over the image from the movie made by the people who hate those beliefs. It becomes a whole thing. And it's really hard to then admit that, oh dear, I've been a big insufferable dumbass for a very long time. It's much easier to just ask yourself, uh-oh, am I being a dumbass? Right at the start of you being a dumbass about a thing. And of course, it's impossible to always do that. Again, we're human, we're fallible, we're going to make mistakes. We're all going to fall prey to some appetizing nonsense at some point in our lives. And we can all still pursue a standard of intellectual excellence. Not because it'll make you some very cool and logical golden brain super smarty, but because doing the other thing gets people killed. Embracing what feels true over what stands up to scientific scrutiny. Believing the handful of crackpots who tell you you're right over the thousands of credible scientists who tell you you're wrong. Assuming the veracity of something you've seen or read without asking anybody else who knows more about the subject than you do. These are deadly choices. These mistakes cost lives. I believe we can do better. We can be braver. We can keep an eye on ourselves and catch ourselves fucking up. We can forgive ourselves for fucking up. And we can hold ourselves accountable and learn from our fuck-ups. So that maybe, just maybe, one day we can finally retire all these old, boring, tried and true, perennial human fuck-ups and discover whole new ways to fuck up like a big bunch of stupid idiots. And then learn even more stuff from all the new stupid shit we're fucking up. So please be honest with yourself and with others. Ask questions of yourself and others. Open yourself up to criticism. Be vulnerable. Be humble. Be strong. Be brave. You can protect your ego, or you can seek the truth. You cannot do both. Thank you for listening. Good luck out there. I love you.
Yeah, da, da, yeah, ba, 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 yeah, ba, 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 ba,